The lower market smelled like a dozen different worlds crammed into one corridor. David Foster pushed through the crowd, trying not to bump into the tall, blue-skinned traders or the small, furry merchants selling what looked like dried insects. Somewhere above his head, the diplomatic suites of Crossroads Haven Station gleamed with polished metal and soft lights. Down here, everything was rust and noise and desperation. He had 6 hours before the peace talks began. 6 hours before he had to sit across from the Shivari Empire's representatives and convince them that humans deserved respect in galactic politics. His assistant had suggested he stay in his rooms and review the briefing documents one more time. David had ignored that advice. You could not understand people by reading files. You had to see how they lived, that a vendor shouted at him in a language his translator chip struggled to process. David smiled and shook his head, moving past tables covered in strange fruits and mechanical parts. Children ran between the stalls, most of them human refugees from the border conflicts. The war had been over for 2 years, but thousands still had nowhere to go. David noticed the boy because he was standing completely still in the middle of the chaos. Everyone else pushed and shoved and hurried. This kid just stood there, staring at David with hollow eyes that had seen too much. He looked about 12 years old, skinny in a way that spoke of too many missed meals. His clothes were torn and dirty. His hair was matted. The boy approached slowly, hand outstretched. "Please, sir, just a few credits. I haven't eaten today." David heard the accent immediately. Pacific Northwest. Seattle, maybe, or Portland. This was a kid from Earth, thousands of light years from home. David's chest tightened. How did a human child end up begging in an alien market? "What's your name?" David asked, reaching into his coat pocket. The boy's eyes flickered to David's hand. Then they locked onto something and went wide. His outstretched hand started shaking. He took a step back, his mouth falling open. "Your ring," the boy whispered. His voice cracked. "Your ring. My mom had the same one." David froze. His hand was still in his coat, but his right hand was visible, and on his fourth finger sat a silver ring with a small blue stone surrounded by Celtic knotwork. He had worn it every day for 20 years. It had been made by a jeweler in Dublin, custom designed. Only 2 had ever been created. David wore one. His sister Rachel had worn the other. Rachel, who had been dead for 15 years, David pulled his hand slowly from his coat. He stared at the boy, really looked at him. Brown hair like Rachel's. A stubborn chin like Rachel's. And those eyes, that particular shade of green that ran in their family. "Where did your mother get her ring?" David's voice came out rough. The boy was breathing fast now, looking like he might run. I shouldn't have said anything. I'm sorry. Please, just forget it." David moved without thinking, gently catching the boy's arm. "Wait, please. I'm not going to hurt you. That ring, it belonged to my sister. She died a long time ago. If your mother had one like it, I need to know how." The boy searched David's face. Whatever he saw, there made something shift in his expression. "You look like her," he said quietly. Around the eyes, she had pictures. Old ones from before. Before what? David's heart was hammering now. Before everything went bad. Before we had to run. The boy swallowed hard. "My name is Liam. My mom was Rachel Foster. She died 3 years ago on this station." The market noise faded to a distant roar. David could not hear anything except the blood rushing in his ears. Rachel Foster, his sister, the brilliant xenobiologist who had volunteered for a deep space exploration mission and never come back. The woman they had held a funeral for, even though they never found her body. The person David had grieved for 15 years. "That's impossible," David said, but his voice had no strength behind it. "Her ship was lost. Everyone aboard died. They searched for months." Liam's eyes filled with tears. "She told me about the ship. She said it got attacked. She said she got taken. She never told me everything, but she was scared all the time. We moved every few months. She always looked over her shoulder. And she made me promise if anything happened to her, I had to hide. I had to never tell anyone who I really was." David's mind raced through impossibilities. If Rachel had survived, why had she never contacted Earth? Never sent a message? Never come home? "Do you have proof?" David asked. Anything that proves she was your mother? Liam reached under his shirt and pulled out a chain. Hanging from it was a ring identical to the one David wore. Same silver, same blue stone, same Celtic knots. David's knees went weak. He reached out and touched the ring with trembling fingers. He knew that ring. He had watched the jeweler make both of them 25 years ago for his sister's 20th birthday. He had teased her about getting matching rings like they were married to each other instead of just siblings. I have pictures too, Liam said, on a data chip. She gave it to me before she died. She said if I ever met someone from Earth I could trust, someone official, I should show them. She said to tell them. He stopped, struggling with the words. She said to tell them the Shivari breeding program cannot be exposed. The world tilted. David grabbed the edge of a nearby table to steady himself. Breeding program. Shivari. His sister. This boy. He looked at Liam again. Really looked. The boy was human, clearly. But there was something else. The way his eyes caught the light, almost reflective. The slight pattern to his skin that could have been dust, but might have been scales. We need to go somewhere private, David said. His diplomat training kicked in, overriding the shock. Right now. Can you take me to where you're staying? Liam hesitated. I don't really stay anywhere. I move around. Then you're coming with me. To my quarters. We need to talk, and we need to do it away from all these people. David looked around the market, suddenly seeing threats everywhere. If what Liam said was true, if there was some secret involving the Shivari, then the boy was in danger. Do you trust me? Liam studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You have her eyes, and you're wearing the ring. She said family wears the ring. Family. This boy was his nephew. Son. David had family he never knew existed, standing in front of him in rags, alone in the universe. Come on, David said gently. Let's get you somewhere safe. Then you can tell me everything. Security barely glanced at David as he entered the diplomatic section with Liam at his side. They were used to ambassadors bringing guests through. David kept his expression neutral, professional, while his insides churned with questions and impossible hope. The doors to his quarters hissed shut behind them. Liam stood in the entrance, eyes wide, looking at the clean white walls and soft furniture like he had stepped into a dream. David watched the boy touch the back of a chair carefully, as if it might disappear. When did you last eat? David asked. Liam shrugged. Yesterday morning. Maybe. I found some bread someone threw away. David's jaw clenched. His nephew had been eating garbage while David lived in luxury. He ordered food from the room's computer, enough for 3 people. When it arrived minutes later, Liam stared at the tray like he did not believe it was real. Eat, David said gently. We can talk after. He watched Liam try to eat slowly, try to have manners, but hunger won. The boy devoured everything, then looked embarrassed. David, order more. This time Liam ate slower, his body starting to believe food might keep coming. While Liam ate, David pulled up his personal files on his tablet. He found what he was looking for quickly. A photo from 20 years ago. Rachel at 18, laughing at a family gathering. Their mother had taken the picture the day before Rachel left for university. David turned the tablet toward Liam. Is this her? Liam's hand froze halfway to his mouth. He stared at the image. Tears spilled down his cheeks. Yes, that's my mom. She looked different later, older and tired, but that's her. I remember her smile from when I was little, before things got really bad. David set the tablet down before he dropped it. 15 years. Rachel had been alive all this time. Had a child. Died alone on a station far from home. Tell me everything, David said. Start from your earliest memory. Liam wiped his face with his sleeve. I remember living on a ship when I was maybe 4 or 5. Just me and Mom. She worked doing repairs, cleaning, anything people would pay for under the table. She never used her real name. We moved constantly. Different ships, different stations, different colonies. Did she ever say why you were running? Not really. Just that there were bad people looking for us. That if they found us, they would take me away and hurt her. She taught me to hide, to lie about my age and where I came from, to never trust officials. Liam looked at David. But she also told me that most humans were good. That if she died and I met the right person, someone I could really trust, I should tell the truth. What truth? David leaned forward. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She gave me this a week before she died. Made me memorize a passcode. She said it had pictures and documents that proved what happened to her. She said I should only show it to someone who could actually do something about it. David took the chip carefully. What did she tell you about what happened? She said her ship got attacked 15 years ago. Not by pirates, by Shivari military. They took her and some other crew members to a secret facility. She said they did experiments. Medical stuff. She didn't explain it all because she said I was too young, but I figured out enough. Liam touched his own arm. They were trying to mix humans and Shivari. Make hybrids. The words hung in the air like poison. David had heard rumors over the years. Whispers and intelligence reports about illegal Shivari research programs. Nothing ever confirmed. Nothing ever proven. Just shadows and speculation. Most of the humans died, Liam continued quietly. Mom said she was the only one who survived more than a few months. She got pregnant with me. She never told me if that was the point of the experiments or an accident. When I was born, she said some of the Shivari scientists wanted to kill me. Others wanted to study me. But there was one guard who helped her escape. She never told me his name, just that he said what they were doing was wrong. How did she get away? During a transfer between facilities. The guard made it look like an accident. Mom stole a small ship and ran. She said the Shivari covered the whole thing up, destroyed records, hunted anyone who knew. She spent years jumping between outer colonies where Shivari authority was weak and humans did not ask questions. David's mind raced. If this was true, it was a massive scandal. The kind of thing that could restart a war. Why didn't she contact Earth? We could have protected you both. Liam shook his head. She said if Earth found out, they would demand justice. The Shivari would deny everything. It would break the fragile peace. Billions would die in another war. She said her life and mine were not worth billions of other lives. The pure selflessness of it hit David like a physical blow. Rachel had sacrificed everything, lived in fear and poverty, died alone, all to protect a peace between species. All to save people who would never even know her name. She got sick about 3 years ago, Liam said, his voice breaking. We were here on Crossroads Haven. She was working in waste recycling. The infection started small, but spread fast. She couldn't afford real medical care, and she was scared to go to a clinic because they might identify her. By the time she got desperate enough, it was too late. What happened? David asked softly. She died in a charity hospital in the lower levels. I was with her. She made me promise to survive, to hide, to never tell anyone who I was unless I was absolutely sure they could be trusted. She said the ring would help me know. She said anyone wearing the matching ring was family, and family protects family. Liam looked at David's hand. That's why I spoke to you. I saw the ring, and I thought maybe, just maybe, you were the person she told me to find. David stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships came and went from the station. Thousands of lives moving through space, unaware that everything might be about to change. The peace talks start in 4 hours, David said. I'm supposed to negotiate trade agreements with the Shivari Empire. If I reveal what happened to your mother, if I show proof of this breeding program, it could destroy everything. I know, Liam said. That's why Mom never told. That's why she died protecting the secret. David turned back to his nephew. But you're here. You're alive. You're proof that cannot be hidden forever. And you deserve better than living in shadows, eating garbage, afraid every day. What are you going to do? Liam asked. David looked at the data chip in his hand. He thought about his sister, about her sacrifice, about 15 years of silence and suffering. He thought about the peace that hung by a thread. He thought about the boy in front of him who had never known safety. I don't know yet, David admitted, but I'm not going to abandon you. Whatever happens next, you're not alone anymore. Family protects family, like your mother said, and you're my family. Liam nodded, fresh tears streaming down his face. For the first time in 3 years, someone had claimed him. Someone had chosen him. He was not just a secret to be buried anymore. He was someone's nephew, someone's family, someone who mattered. David sat in the darkness of his quarters while Liam slept in the bedroom. The boy had crashed hard after the shower in real clothes, exhaustion finally catching up with him. David had watched his nephew curl up in clean sheets, still not quite believing they were safe. Now David held the data chip in his hand, staring at it. Inside this tiny piece of technology was proof of crimes that could shatter everything. He could plug it in and know the truth. Or he could destroy it and let the past stay buried that he plugged it in. The first file was a video. Rachel's face appeared on the screen, older than David remembered, with lines around her eyes and scars on her neck. She looked exhausted. She looked terrified. But she was alive, and seeing her after 15 years of believing she was dead made David's throat close up. "If you're watching this, I'm gone," Rachel said. Her voice was rough, like she had been crying. "And if my son trusted you enough to show you this, then you must be someone special. Maybe you're even family. God, I hope you're family." She wiped her eyes. "My name is Rachel Foster. 15 years ago, I was a xenobiologist on the exploration vessel Horizon. We were mapping systems near Shivari space when we were attacked. Not by pirates, by a Shivari military cruiser. They disabled our ship and boarded. They killed most of the crew. They took 6 of us alive." Rachel's hands shook as she continued. "They brought us to a research facility. I never knew exactly where. Underground, I think. They told us we were part of a program to create hybrid soldiers. They said human DNA had properties they wanted. Adaptability, aggression, the ability to survive in harsh environments. They were going to combine our genetics with theirs." David felt sick. He wanted to stop the video, but forced himself to keep watching. The experiments were brutal. Most of the others died within weeks. The Shivari scientists didn't care. They just brought in more test subjects. I survived because my body accepted the genetic modifications better than the others. I don't know why. Maybe just luck. Rachel touched her arm, and David saw faint scale patterns under her skin. They changed me, made me something between human and Shivari. And they tried to make me pregnant to see if a hybrid could reproduce. Tears ran down Rachel's face on the screen. "I gave birth to Liam in a cell. They wanted to take him immediately, study him, see how a natural-born hybrid differed from their created ones. But one of the guards, his name was Torvak, he saw what they were doing, and it broke something in him. He said his own people had lost their honor. He helped me escape." The video shook as Rachel adjusted the camera. "I've been running ever since. The Shivari covered up the breeding program when I escaped. They killed the scientists involved and buried all evidence. But they also hunted me because I'm living proof of what they did. I couldn't go home to Earth. If I revealed the truth, it would start another war. Humans would demand justice. The Shivari would deny everything. Millions would die." Rachel leaned closer to the camera. "So I'm telling you this now, whoever you are, because you need to understand the choice I made. I chose peace over justice. I chose billions of lives over my own. I chose silence over revenge. And I need you to promise me something." Her eyes were fierce now, determined. "Protect my son. He didn't ask to be born into this nightmare. He's innocent. He's beautiful. He's the best thing I ever did, even in the worst circumstances. Keep him safe. Give him the life I couldn't. And please, please, don't let my sacrifice be for nothing. Don't restart the war." The video ended. David sat in silence, his face wet with tears. More files waited on the chip. Medical records showing the experiments. Documents in Shivari script that David's translator rendered into horrifying clinical descriptions of procedures. Photos of the facility, of other prisoners, of Rachel in a cell holding a newborn baby with eyes that reflected light like reptile eyes. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. David could take this to the Terran Coalition leaders and watch the galaxy burn with outrage. Or he could honor his sister's sacrifice and stay silent. That he checked the time. 2 hours until the peace talks. He needed to decide that a sound made him look up. Liam stood in the doorway, wearing the oversized sleep clothes David had given him. "You watched it?" "Yes," David said. "What are you going to do?" David looked at his nephew. Really looked. In good light, the subtle differences were visible. The slight reflective quality to his eyes. The faint pattern under his skin that looked like scales. The way his fingers were just a bit too long. Liam was human, clearly, but he was also something else. Living proof of crimes that demanded justice. "Your mother asked me to protect you. David said. That's my first priority. Everything else comes second. Even the peace talks, even those. David stood and walked to Liam. He put his hands on the boy's shoulders. You matter more than politics, more than treaties. You're my nephew, your family, and humans protect their family above everything else. Liam's eyes filled with tears. But Mom said billions of lives matter more than us. Your mother was a hero, David said gently. She made an impossible choice and lived with it for 15 years. But she also told you to find someone you could trust, someone who could do something about this. She wouldn't have kept this evidence if she wanted it buried forever. She wanted you to have options. She wanted you to have a choice. What choice? Liam asked. David thought about the peace talks, about the Chivalry delegation waiting in their own quarters, about High Commander Velrus, the chief negotiator, about the fragile trust between species, and then he thought about something his sister had said in the video. The guard who helped her escape. Torvak, a Chivalry who saw the breeding program and called it dishonorable. A Chivalry who risked everything to save a human woman and her hybrid child. Not all Chivalry were evil, just like not all humans were good. There were individuals in every species who valued honor over loyalty, justice over convenience, compassion over cruelty. I think, David said slowly, there might be a third option. Not silence and not war. Something in between. What? Trust, David said. Your mother trusted one Chivalry enough to escape with his help. Maybe we can find another Chivalry we can trust. Someone in their current leadership who values truth and honor. Someone who would rather face their people's past crimes than let them stay hidden. Liam looked doubtful. You think that exists? I don't know, David admitted. But I'm a diplomat. Finding common ground between enemies is literally my job. And if there's even a chance we can get justice for your mother without starting a war, I have to try. And if you can't? If they deny everything and try to hurt us? David pulled his nephew into a hug. Then I'll get you somewhere safe and let the galaxy know the truth. But I'll try the peaceful way first. For your mother. Because she believed peace was worth sacrificing for. I think she'd want us to exhaust every option before giving up on it. Liam hugged him back, this boy who had survived alone for 3 years, who carried secrets that could topple governments, who just wanted to be safe. Okay, Liam whispered. I trust you. Those 3 words carried more weight than any treaty. David had spent his career building trust between strangers. Now his own nephew trusted him with everything. He couldn't fail this. He wouldn't. Get some more sleep, David said. I need to prepare. The talk starts soon, and I need to figure out how to approach this without getting us both killed. Liam nodded and went back to the bedroom. David turned to his computer and began researching High Commander Velrus. If he was going to bet everything on finding honor among his enemies, he needed to know exactly who he was dealing with. The negotiation chamber was designed to impress. Curved walls displayed images of peaceful planets. Soft lighting reduced shadows. The round table meant no one sat at a position of power. Everything carefully crafted to encourage cooperation. David sat across from High Commander Velrus and felt like he was staring at the face of his sister's nightmares. Velrus was old for a Chivalry, his scales faded to a pale gray, his eyes sharp and calculating. He wore simple military dress without excessive decoration. 2 junior officers flanked him, taking notes on tablets. Ambassador Foster, Velrus said in perfect English, his translator hardly necessary. I am pleased we can finally meet. Your reputation as a fair negotiator precedes you. David forced a smile. Commander Velrus, thank you for agreeing to these talks. I believe both our peoples are ready for genuine peace. The words tasted like ash. He was sitting here, making polite conversation with representatives of the species that had tortured his sister, stolen 15 years of her life, and created his nephew in a laboratory like an experiment. But he was also sitting here because one Chivalry, one guard named Torvak, had risked everything to help Rachel escape. That had to mean something. The talks began with trade negotiations. Shipping routes through contested space. Tariffs on goods. Exchange rates for currencies. All the boring details that actually built peace between former enemies. David participated, made counteroffers, found compromised positions. And all the while, he studied Velrus. The old Shivari was smart. More than that, he was careful. He never made promises he couldn't keep. He acknowledged when human concerns were valid. He conceded points where the Shivari position was weak. This was not a warmonger or a fanatic. This was a professional who wanted results. During a break, one of the junior officers approached David. The young Shivari's name tag read Krell. He was nervous, his scales rippling with colors that David's cultural briefings said indicated anxiety. Ambassador Foster, Krell said quietly. Might I speak with you privately for a moment? David followed him to a corner of the room, away from the others. Krell glanced around, making sure no one was listening. I'm aware you have recently taken in a young human ward, Krell said carefully. A boy from the lower markets. David's blood went cold. They knew. Of course they knew. The Shivari intelligence network was extensive. Is that a problem? That depends, Krell said. His eyes met David's directly. Some secrets are kept for good reason, Ambassador. Opening old wounds helps no one. The past is dead. It should stay buried. Is that a threat? David asked quietly. It is advice, Krell said, from someone who wants these peace talks to succeed. The boy has survived this long by staying hidden. Perhaps that is wisdom worth continuing. Krell walked away before David could respond. The message was clear. The Shivari knew about Liam. They knew what he represented, and they were warning David to stay silent. David returned to his seat feeling like he was walking on a knife's edge. If the Shivari felt threatened, they might act against Liam. But if David stayed silent now, his nephew would live in fear forever. The talks resumed. More trade discussions. Then cultural exchange programs. The Shivari proposed student exchanges, human universities hosting Shivari scholars, and vice versa. Velrus spoke passionately about building understanding between their peoples. We were enemies for too long, Velrus said. Both sides committed acts in wartime that we now regret. The path forward requires acknowledging our shared pain and choosing to move beyond it. The words gave David an opening. A small one. I agree completely, Commander, David said. True peace requires honesty about the past, both the good and the bad. Hitten und festa. Only by bringing everything into the light can we truly heal. Velrus studied him. An interesting philosophy, Ambassador. Do you believe all truths should be revealed, regardless of the consequences? I believe that justice delayed is justice denied, David said carefully. And I believe victims deserve acknowledgement, even years later. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The junior officers shifted uncomfortably. Krell's scales flashed warning colors, but Velrus just nodded slowly. Would you join me for a private discussion, Ambassador? Perhaps we should speak frankly away from our staffs. David's heart raced. This was either an opportunity or a trap. Of course, Commander. They moved to a smaller side chamber. Just the two of them. No witnesses. No records. Velrus stood at the window, looking out at the stars. You know, the old Shivari said quietly. Don't you? No point in lying now. Yes. About the breeding program. About what was done to your people. About the boy. Velrus turned to face him. I assume you have proof. Evidence that could restart the war we both worked so hard to end. David's hand moved unconsciously toward his pocket where he had copied some of Rachel's files. Edo. Then why are you here negotiating instead of broadcasting that proof to every news network in the galaxy? Because, David said, choosing his words with extreme care, the woman who suffered through that program spent 15 years protecting the peace. She chose silence over revenge. She died keeping that secret. And before I disrespect her sacrifice, I wanted to look the Shivari leadership in the eye and see if there was another way. Velrus was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something David didn't expect. He sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his years. I wondered if this day would come, Velrus said. I have been High Commander for 6 years. When I took this position, I ordered a complete audit of all classified military programs. I wanted to know every secret the previous administration had buried. I found the breeding program files 3 years ago. David's breath caught. You knew. I knew, Velrus said. I found records of the facility, the experiments, the prisoners. Most were dead. The scientists involved were already executed by my predecessor when the program was shut down. But there was one prisoner unaccounted for, Rachel Foster, and a note that she had escaped with a hybrid child. If you knew, why didn't you come forward? Velrus looked at him with ancient, tired eyes. For the same reason your sister stayed silent. Because revealing it would destroy the peace. Because my people would deny it ever happened and accuse humans of fabricating evidence. Because extremists on both sides would use it as an excuse to restart the war. Because billions would die to avenge crimes already punished. Crimes already punished. David's voice rose. My sister died alone on a station, afraid and poor, keeping your secret. Her son has been living on the streets for 3 years. You call that punished? No, Velrus said firmly. I call that an injustice that haunts me every day. I have been searching for the boy for 3 years. I tracked him to this station 6 months ago. I have had agents watching him, protecting him from shadows, ensuring no extremist elements found him first. David stared. You've been protecting Liam? As best I could without revealing why he mattered. The boy is innocent. His mother was a victim. They deserved better than what my people did to them. Velrus stood and walked closer. But I could not reveal them publicly without destroying everything. So I've kept the secret and hated myself for it. The raw honesty in the old Shivari's voice was undeniable. This was not a monster. This was someone trapped by impossible choices, just like Rachel had been. What do we do now? David asked. That depends, Velrus said. What do you want? Justice? Revenge? Acknowledgement? David thought about Liam sleeping safely in his quarters. About Rachel's video message asking him to protect her son. About the guard Torvak who had saved them both. I want my nephew to be safe, David said. I want him to live in daylight, not shadows. I want him to know his mother was a hero, not a secret to be ashamed of. And I want the people responsible for what happened to her to face consequences. The people directly responsible are dead, Velrus said. I executed them myself when I shut down the program. But you're right that the Shivari Empire owes a debt. To your sister, to your nephew, to all the victims. Can you pay that debt without starting a war? David asked. Velrus looked at him for a long moment. Perhaps, if we are both willing to take a risk. If we are both willing to trust each other when our peoples do not. What kind of risk? The old Shivari scales shifted to colors David's briefing said indicated determination. The kind that requires courage. Come, ambassador. Let us see if 2 old soldiers can build something better than our predecessors gave us. They met in David's quarters that evening. Velrus arrived with only Krell, leaving his other staff behind. David had Liam wait in the bedroom, but the boy had insisted on being nearby. He deserved to be part of decisions about his own life. Velrus stood in the middle of the human quarters, looking oddly out of place among the soft furniture and warm colors. His scales were set to neutral tones, a sign of peaceful intent in Shivari body language. Before we begin, Velrus said, I would like to meet the boy. If he is willing. David went to the bedroom door and knocked softly. Liam? The commander wants to meet you. Liam emerged slowly, staying close to David's side. He looked small and fragile next to the tall Shivari, but his eyes were steady. This boy had survived too much to be afraid now. Velrus studied Liam for a long moment. Then he did something that made even Krell gasp. He lowered himself to one knee, bringing his eyes level with the boy's. Liam Foster, Velrus said formally. I am High Commander Velrus of the Shivari Empire. On behalf of my people, I offer you profound apology. What was done to your mother was criminal. What you have suffered because of it is unjust. I cannot undo the past, but I can acknowledge the debt we owe you. Liam stared at the kneeling commander. You're apologizing? To me? Yes. You are innocent. You are also proof of my people's dishonor. Both things are true. Velrus remained kneeling. Your mother was brave. The guard who helped her, Torvak, was my friend. He was executed when they discovered his role in your escape. He died believing he had done the right thing. I have spent years wishing I had been as brave as him. You knew Torvak? Liam's voice shook. He served under my command before I became High Commander. He was a good soldier and a better person. When I found the breeding program files, I found his confession as well. He wrote that saving your mother was the most honorable thing he had ever done, that you deserved a chance at life. Velrus's scales flickered with colors that looked like grief. He asked that if you were ever found, someone should tell you that he was sorry he could not do more. Tears ran down Liam's face. For 3 years, he had known about Torvak only as a name his mother spoke with gratitude. Now he learned that the Shivari who saved them had died for it, and had thought of Liam even in death. "Thank you," Liam whispered, "for telling me." Velrus stood slowly. "Now we must decide how to move forward. I have a proposal, but it is risky. If it fails, it could destroy the peace. If it succeeds, it might give us something stronger than peace. It might give us justice." They sat, an unlikely group gathered around a table. David, Liam, Velrus, and Krell. Human and Shivari. Victim and perpetrator. All trying to find a path through impossible circumstances. "I propose we acknowledge the breeding program publicly," Velrus said. Krell made a choking sound. "Commander, that would be political suicide. The Council would never approve. Which is why we do it before asking permission," Velrus said calmly. "We frame it as a rogue operation conducted by criminals already executed. We acknowledge the victims. We offer reparations. And we do it as part of the peace treaty. So rejecting it means rejecting peace itself." David leaned forward. "You think you can force your government's hand? I think if we present it correctly, they will have no choice but to accept. The alternative is looking like they are covering up atrocities. In the current political climate, with peace talks already underway, that would be unacceptable." Velrus looked at Liam. "But this only works if you are willing to be public, to be known, to have your existence acknowledged." Liam looked at David. "Would I be safe?" "I would guarantee it personally," Velrus said before David could answer. "You would be under joint protection, Shivari and human both. Anyone who threatened you would face both our governments. You would not live in hiding anymore. But everyone would know what I am," Liam said quietly. "That I'm a hybrid, that I'm not fully human." David put his hand on his nephew's shoulder. "You are fully human where it counts. In your heart, in your courage, in your compassion. The rest is just genetics." "People will stare," Liam said. "They'll call me names. They'll say I'm a monster or a freak. Some will," Velrus agreed. He did not sugarcoat the truth. "But others will see you as a symbol. Proof that even from the worst circumstances, something innocent and worthy can emerge. A bridge between our species." "That's a lot to put on a kid," David said sharply. "It is," Velrus agreed, "which is why the choice must be his. I will not force this. If Liam wants to remain hidden, I will help protect that secret. But if he is willing to step into the light, I believe we can use his existence to build something better." Liam was quiet for a long time. David watched his nephew think, saw the intelligence and strength that Rachel had given him. This boy had survived alone for 3 years. He was tougher than he looked. "If I do this," Liam finally said, "what happens to the other victims? My mom said there were others who died. Do they get acknowledged too?" Velrus nodded. "Yes. Every name, every victim. We build a memorial. We ensure they are remembered." "And what about other hybrids?" "Mom told me some of the experiments worked. She thought there might be others like me, hidden away or killed. If I come forward, does it help find them?" The question clearly surprised Velrus. I do not know if others survived. The records were incomplete. But if they exist, acknowledging the program would make it safer for them to come forward." "Yes." Liam looked at David. "What do you think I should do?" David wanted to tell him to stay hidden, to be safe, to be a normal kid. But Liam had never been normal and never would be. And he deserved to make his own choice. "I think," David said carefully, "your mother spent 15 years protecting you by hiding. Maybe now it's time to protect others by being visible. But it's your choice, Liam. I'll support whatever you decide." Liam touched the ring around his neck, his mother's ring. He was quiet for another moment, then straightened his shoulders. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it. Let's tell the truth." Velrus's scales shifted to colors that David's briefing said indicated deep respect. "You are your mother's son, brave beyond your years. So how do we do this?" David asked. Velrus pulled out a tablet. We draft an addendum to the peace treaty, a section on historical acknowledgement and reparations. We include the breeding program, frame it correctly, and present it as a joint human-chivalry effort to face the past honestly. We make it public before either government can stop us. That's insane, Krell said. You'll both be removed from your positions. Perhaps, Velrus said, but it will be done. The truth will be out, and neither government will want to look like they are hiding atrocities, so they will accept it. David smiled grimly. Political blackmail through radical transparency. I like it. It is not without risk, Velrus warned. There are extremists on both sides who will be angry. Some will target us. Some will target Liam. We must be prepared for backlash. I've been targeted my whole life, Liam said quietly. At least now I'll know why, and I won't be alone. David pulled his nephew close. No, you won't be alone. Not ever again. They worked through the night, drafting language, preparing documents, building the case. Human and chivalry, working together, try to turn old crimes into new understanding. Outside the window, the station rotated slowly, day and night, cycling in artificial rhythm. And in that room, for people built something fragile and precious, they built trust. The press conference was scheduled for noon. David stood backstage with Liam, adjusting his nephew's collar for the third time. The boy looked terrified but determined. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy, because Velrus had suggested he look like what he was. A kid, a survivor, someone real. You don't have to do this, David said quietly. We can still back out. Liam shook his head. Yes, I do. For Mom. For Torvak. For anyone else like me who's still hiding. Velrus approached from the other side of the stage. He wore full military dress now, every medal and ribbon he had earned. He looked like exactly what he was. A commander prepared to face the consequences of his choices. Both delegations are in position, Velrus said. Neither government knows what we are about to announce. When we go public, there will be approximately 15 minutes before our superiors can react. We must make those minutes count. Krell appeared, looking nervous. The media is ready. Every major network in human and chivalry space is broadcasting. We will have the largest simultaneous audience in galactic history. No pressure, David muttered. Liam managed a weak smile. Then he took a deep breath. Let's go. They walked onto the stage together. David, Liam, and Velrus. Human and chivalry. The cameras focused on them immediately. Thousands of reporters fell silent. Sensing this was something unusual, David stepped to the podium first. Good afternoon. I am Ambassador David Foster of the Terran Coalition. Beside me is High Commander Velrus of the Shivari Empire. We are here to make a joint announcement regarding our peace negotiations. He paused, letting the anticipation build. 15 years ago, a rogue Shivari military program conducted illegal experiments on human prisoners. The program was designed to create hybrid soldiers by combining human and Shivari genetics. Most of the prisoners died. The scientists responsible were later executed when the program was discovered and shut down. Gasps rippled through the press corps. Cameras flashed. Reporters started shouting questions. David held up his hand for silence. One prisoner escaped with help from a Shivari guard who found the program dishonorable. That prisoner was my sister, Rachel Foster. She was pregnant with a hybrid child. She spent 15 years hiding to protect both her son and the fragile peace between our species. She died 3 years ago, alone and afraid, having sacrificed everything to prevent another war. David gestured to Liam. This is her son, my nephew, Liam Foster. He is living proof of crimes that were committed. He is also proof that individuals in both our species can choose honor over loyalty and compassion over cruelty. Velrus stepped forward. The Shivari Empire acknowledges this program existed. We acknowledge the suffering it caused. We acknowledge our debt to the victims and their families. As part of our peace treaty, we are establishing a joint commission to locate any other survivors and provide them protection and reparations. We are building a memorial to all victims. And we are ensuring this never happens again through strict oversight and accountability. The reporters erupted with questions. David ignored them and looked directly into the cameras. My sister chose silence to protect peace. But she also kept evidence because she wanted the truth known when the time was right. Today, working with Commander Velrus, we are honoring both her sacrifice and her desire for justice. We are proving that peace does not require forgetting the past. It requires acknowledging it honestly and choosing to move forward together. Liam stepped to the microphone. His voice shook but carried clearly. My mom was a hero. She protected me and protected billions of others by staying quiet. The Shivari guard who saved us, Torvak, he was a hero too. He died for doing the right thing. I'm here because they were brave. And I'm here to say that being part human and part Shivari doesn't make me a monster. It makes me proof that our species can create something new together. Something better. The boy's simple words cut through the complexity and politics. This was not a diplomatic incident. This was a child whose mother had died protecting peace. This was innocence born from atrocity. David saw it happening in real time. The initial shock in the reporters' faces shifting to sympathy, to understanding. Liam was not a political problem. He was a kid who deserved better. The questions came rapid fire. David and Velrus answered honestly. Yes, the program was real. Yes, it was illegal. Yes, those responsible were punished. Yes, they should have revealed it sooner. Yes, they understood there would be anger and calls for further investigation. Through it all, Liam stood between them, a living bridge between species. A reminder that even the worst crimes could not erase individual dignity and worth. 3 hours later, the initial fury had passed. Both the Terran Coalition and the Shivari Empire released official statements. Neither could deny what had been acknowledged publicly. Neither could reject the peace treaty without appearing to hide further crimes. They accepted the addendum, the commission, the memorial, all of it. Political analysts call it the most audacious diplomatic move in generations. Some called David and Velrus heroes. Others called them traitors to their respective species. But everyone agreed the peace treaty was now stronger because it was built on truth instead of convenient silence. David sat at his quarters that night with Liam, watching the news coverage. The boy was exhausted, but at peace. He had carried his mother's secret for 3 years. Now he was free of it. What happens now? Liam asked. Now we go home, David said. To Earth. You'll meet your grandmother, your cousins, everyone who thought you didn't exist. You'll see your mother's homeworld. You'll have a real life. Will people treat me different? Because of what I am. David considered lying, but Liam deserved honesty. Some will, but others will see past the genetics to who you really are. A brave kid who survived impossible circumstances. A person who chose to help others even when it was scary. Someone worth knowing. Liam touched his mother's ring. She will like this. The peace, I mean. She wanted it so badly. She got it, David said. Because of her sacrifice and because of your courage to step into the light. You finished what she started. A message appeared on David's tablet. From Velrus. It was short. The boy asked about other hybrids. We found one. A girl, age 7, living in a shelter on the Shivari homeworld. She's being brought to safety. There may be more. Liam's choice to be public has already saved a life. David showed Liam the message. The boy's eyes filled with tears. Someone like me, someone exactly like you, who will now have a chance at a real life because you were brave. Liam smiled through his tears. It was the first real smile David had seen from him. Not the careful mask of a street kid, but genuine joy. The smile of a child who realized he mattered, that his existence had meaning beyond being a secret to bury. Over the following months, the memorial was built. A beautiful structure on Crossroads Haven Station, naming every victim of the breeding program. Rachel Foster's name was first on the list. Torvak's name was there too, honored as the guard who chose conscience over orders. Liam attended the dedication ceremony. He placed flowers at his mother's name and stood in silence. David stood beside him, one hand on his nephew's shoulder. Velrus stood on Liam's other side, a Shivari commander honoring human victims and his own disgraced friend. The image of the three of them standing together was broadcast across the galaxy. Human and Shivari and hybrid. Past and present and future. Pain acknowledged and healing begun. That night, back on Earth, Liam sat in David's home looking at pictures of Rachel from before everything went wrong. His grandmother told him stories about his mother as a girl. His cousins treated him like family, not a curiosity. "Uncle David," Liam asked before bed, "do you think Mom will be proud of me?" David knelt down to his nephew's level. "I think your mother sacrificed everything to give you a chance at life. I think she spent her last years making you strong enough to survive alone. And I think seeing you not just survive, but thrive, seeing you use your existence to help others, would make her prouder than anything in the world." Liam hugged him tight. This boy who had begged in markets and slept in corridors and carried impossible secrets was finally home. Finally safe. Finally allowed to just be a kid. Later, David stood in his study, looking at the twin rings. His own and Rachel's, which Liam had given to him for safekeeping. 2 rings, made together, separated for 15 years, finally reunited like family. Like the bond between species. Like peace built on truth instead of silence. The rings caught the light, blue stones gleaming. David thought about his sister, about her sacrifice, about the choice she made to protect peace over seeking justice. He thought about Liam's courage to step into the light. He thought about Velrus risking everything to acknowledge old crimes. And he understood what made humanity special in the galaxy. Not technology or strength or aggression, but the stubborn refusal to abandon those they loved. The courage to demand truth even when lies were easier. The compassion to see past species and genetics to the person underneath. That was the real victory. Not the treaty or the memorial or the political maneuvering, but a street boy who finally had a home. A woman's sacrifice that was honored instead of buried. A guard's conscience that was remembered instead of erased. Peace built on that foundation would last, because it was built on what was best in all of them, human and chivalry alike. David turned off the light and went to check on Liam one more time. The boy was asleep, finally peaceful, finally safe, finally home, and somewhere, David thought, Rachel was smiling.